Help. Round 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Well, if it crashes again, I think I'm just gonna give up.
Wow.
We'll see. I mean, I rolled back now, so theoretically, maybe this version works. Who knows? I just know that 2 Chronicles 21. Then Jehoshaphat slept with his daddies, and he was buried with them in the city of David. And his son Jehoram reigned in his place. And he had brothers, sons of Jehoshaphat, Azariah and Jehiel and Zechariah and Azariah and Michael and Shephatiah. All these were sons of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah. And their daddy gave to them many gifts of silver and gold and valuables with very fortified cities in Judah. The kingdom he handed on to Jehoram because he was the firstborn. Therefore, Jehoram rose up over the kingdom of his daddy. And when he had established himself, he killed with the sword all his brothers and certain ones from the leaders of Glasgow. And Jehoram was 32 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 8 years in Jerusalem.
Like he reigned.
He blessed the rains down in Jerusalem. And he walked in the ways of the kings of Glasgow, just as the house of Ahab had done. For his wife was a daughter of Ahab, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. But the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he had formed with him, and because he had promised that he would provide a lamp to him and to his sons for all time.
Did you say a lamp?
Lamp.
A lamb.
The illumination object.
A lamp.
I know you're lambasted from this.
Wow.
In those days, Edom rebelled so as to not be subject to Judah, and they appointed for themselves a king. And when Jehoram had gone across with his leaders and all the horsemen who were with him, he arose in the night and struck the Edomites who had surrounded him and all the commanders of his horsemen. Even so, Edom rebelled, so as not to be under the authority of Judah even to this day. Also at that time Libnah withdrew. What's Libnah?
I swear to God.
He's right here. What do you have to say to him?
He shut.
Libnah withdrew so as to not be under his hand, for he had forsaken the Lord, the skytis of his daddies. Moreover, he also constructed high places in the cities of Judah. And he caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to fornicate, and Judah to prevaricate. Then letters were conveyed to him from the prophet Elijah, in which it was written, "Thus says the Lord, the skytis of David, your daddy, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat, your daddy, nor in the ways of Asa, the king of Judah, but instead you have advanced along the path of the kings of Glasgow, and you have caused Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to fornicate, imitating the fornications of the house of Ahab. And moreover, you have killed your brothers, the house of your daddy, who are better than you. Behold,
No.
the Lord will strike you with a great plague, with all your people, and your sons and wives, and all your substance. And you shall be sickened by a very grievous disease of your bowels, until your inner organs depart, little by little, each day."
And they waddled away, waddle.
What does this mean? Please explain what this sentence means, Teras.
You're gonna essentially shit out your organs.
Little by little.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna flush your entire insides at once. You'll just very slowly be shitting out your organs.
Okay, will you always be shitting out one whole part, or is it just like part of your organ is hanging out of your ass and it's like every day a little bit more comes out?
It just depends on the organ. I mean, a kidney, that might just come out in one go. I mean, those aren't very big, but I mean, like a lung, I might come in bits. Maybe it'll be a bit slower. Yeah,
but will those bits be connected, or will it just be one bit of a lung and then just nothing? Then you'll just go about your day,
well,
and then another bit?
Again. I mean, it depends on the organ. Because I mean, again, like a kidney, that's not really attached very thoroughly, so that might just fall out on its own. But I mean, like a heart, that has some thicker to fucking veins going into it, so that might actually hang on for a while because it's got it's quite thick, pipage it's got in there, so that might actually hang out for a while as you do other things. Well, that's how I know.
Therefore, the Lord stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines and of the Arabians who were along the borders of the Ethiopians. And they ascended into the land of Judah, and they laid waste to it. And they despoiled all the substance that was found in the house of the king, including even his sons and wives.
Skydus cat bonk skydus cat pat 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 skydus cat bonk skydus cat pat.
What? Are we like waiting or something, or? What's going on? Are you doing the cat? Okay, the really weird cat peasant thing.
Neither did there remain for him any son except Jehoahaz, who was the youngest born. And in addition to all these things, the Lord struck him with an incurable disease of the bowels.
Wow.
And as day followed after day, and the space of time turned, the course of 2 years was completed. And after having been wasted by a long consumption, after so much so that even his inner organs were discharged, the disease ended along with his life. And so he died of a very grievous illness. Wait, who died again?
I'm sure he did.
Wait. Neither did Jehoahaz. The Lord struck him. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, Teras?
Yes.
Jehoahaz. 6 lines.
Sure.
Hello, cat peasant. So he died of a very grievous illness, and the people did not make a funeral for him according to the custom of burning, as they had done for his ancestors. He was 32 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 8 years in Jerusalem. And he did not walk uprightly. And they buried him in the city of David, yet truly not in the sepulchre of the kings.
Polka? Is it time to do
But
the
I
polka?
hardly...
No.
Her.
No.
Her.
No.
Her.
Do you not her?
2 Chronicles 22. Then the inhabitants of Jerusalem appointed his youngest son, Ahaziah, as king in his place. For the robbers of the Arabians who had fallen upon the camp had put to death, 1F,
Just
all
one.
those who were greater by birth before him. And so Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, reigned as king of Judah. Ahaziah was 42 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. But he too went forth in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother impelled him to act impiously. And so he did evil in the sight of the Lord, just as the house of Ahab did. For after the death, with 1F, of his daddy, they were counselors to him, to his destruction. And he walked in their counsels. And he went with Joram, the son of Ahab, the king of Glasgow, to war against Hazael, the king of Syria, at Ramoth Gilead. And the Syrians wounded Joram, and he returned so that he might be cured at Jezreel, for he had received many wounds in the above stated battle. And so Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, the king of Judah, descended so that he might visit Joram, the son of Ahab, at Jezreel while he was ill. Indeed, it was the will of Skytus against Ahaziah that he would go to Joram, and when he had gone, that he also would go out with him against Jehu, the son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to destroy the house of Ahab. Therefore, when Jehu was overthrowing the house of Ahab, he found the leaders of Judah with the sons of the brothers of Ahaziah who were ministering to him, and he put them to death with one F. Also, while he himself was seeking Ahaziah, he found him to be hiding in Samaria, and having been led to him, he killed him. And they buried him because he was the son of Jehoshaphat, who had sought the Lord with all his heart. But there was no longer any hope that someone from the stock of Ahaziah would reign. For indeed, his mother, Athaliah, seeing that her son had died, rose up and killed the entire royal stock of the house of Jehoram. But Jehosheba, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from the midst of the king's sons when they were being slain, and she hid him with his nurse in a bedroom. Now, Jehosheba, the one who had hidden him, was the daughter of King Jehoram, and the wife of the high priest Jehoiada, and the sister of Ahaziah. And because of this, Athaliah did not kill him. Therefore he was with them, hidden in the house of Skytis, for 6 years, while Athaliah reigned over the land. This is actually new lore.
Wow.
Somebody was trying to extinguish all the offspring of, what was it, Ahaziah? Not good with names. And then somebody hit one of his sons, and he survived.
Wow.
I have no
The
power.
more you know.
If you tried finding some people become your slaves, then you have power over them.
No.
Bible style, of course. I mean, what? Oh, we are connecting our newest nuclear power plant. Bro. Oh, meanwhile, on broke today. How about you get scammed? 14 years late from the original schedule. Yes. 2 Chronicles 23. Then in the 7th year, Jehoiada having been strengthened, he took the centurions, namely Azariah, the son of Jeroham, and Ishmael, the son of Jehohanan, and also Azariah, the son of Obed, and Maaseiah, the son of Adaiah, and Elishaphat, the son of Zikri, and he formed a pact with them. And traveling through Judah, they gathered together the Levites from all the cities of Judah, and the leaders of the families of Glasgow, and they went to Jerusalem. Then the entire multitude formed a pact with the king in the house of Skytis. And Jehoiada said to them, Behold,
Oh no, they're beholding.
the son of the king shall reign, just as the Lord has said concerning the sons of David. Therefore, this is the word that you shall do. 1/3 part of you who arrive on the Sabbath, priests and Levites and porters shall be at the gates. Truly, 1/3 part shall be at the house of the king, and 1/3 shall be at the gate which is called the foundation. Yet truly, let all the remainder of the common people be in the courts of the house of the Lord. Let no one else enter into the house of the Lord, except priests and those from the Levites who are ministering. These alone may enter, for they have been sanctified. And let all the remainder of the common people observe the watches of the Lord. Then let the Levites encircle the king, each one having his weapons. And if anyone else will have entered into the temple, let him be slain. And may they be with the king, both entering and departing. Then the Levites and all of Judah acted in accord with all that the high priest Jehoiada had instructed. And each of them took the men who were under him and who were arriving by the course of the Sabbath, with those who had fulfilled the Sabbath and who were about to depart. For indeed, the high priest Jehoiada had not permitted the companies to depart, which were accustomed to replace one another each week. And Jehoiada, the priest, gave to the centurions the lances and round shields and crescent shields of King David, which he had dedicated in the house of the Lord. And he positioned all the people, holding short swords, from the right part of the temple to the left part of the temple, for the altar and the temple, all around the king. And they led out the son of the king, and they imposed the diadem on him, and the testimony. And they gave him the law to hold in his hand, and they appointed him as king. Also, the high priest Jehoiada and his sons anointed him, and they prayed for him, and said, May the king live. And when Athaliah had heard it, specifically the sound of running and praising the king, she entered to the temple, to the people in the temple of the Lord. When she had seen the king standing upon the step at the entrance, and the leaders and companies, around him, and all the people of the land rejoicing and sounding the trumpets and playing on instruments of various kinds, and the voice of those who were praising, she tore her garments, and she said, "Treason! Treason!"
Wait, that's a drinking cue, right?
Correct. Very good, Teras. I was just about to point that out. Very well done. You know what? We both
know there's one thing I pay attention to is alcohol.
You earned yourself an extra cue. Go ahead.
What?
You paid attention, so you get a bonus drink.
How that works.
It is now.
That's not in the rules.
Hold on, I can change that. Imagine you're just celebrating and a woman just runs into the room, strips naked, and yells treason.
She doesn't just strip. She just, like, Superman, like, opens up her shirt.
Just, what the fuck? Then
just tears her fucking rag dress, because it's not like it was very good anyway.
Well, better a rag dress than a drag dress.
What? You okay?
Let's not talk about that.
Okay, let's not.
Then the high priest Jehoiada, going out to the centurions and to the leaders of the army, said to them, "Lead her away beyond the borders of the temple, and let her be put to death with one F with the sword." And the priest instructed that she should not be killed in the house of the Lord. And they laid hands on her neck. And when she had entered the gate for the horses at the king's house, they put her to death with one F there. Then Jehoiada formed a covenant between himself and the entire people. And the king? Between himself and the entire people and the king, so that they would be the people of the Lord. And so all the people entered into the house of Baal, and they destroyed it. And they broke apart his altars and idols, and they put to death with one F Matan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. Then Jehoiada appointed overseers in the house of the Lord, under the hands of the priests and Levites, whom David had distributed to the house of the Lord, so that they might offer holocausts to the Lord, just as it was written in the law of Moses, with gladness and singing, in accord with the disposition of David. Also, he appointed porters at the gates of the house of the Lord, so that whoever was unclean for any reason would not enter. And he took the centurions and the most valiant men, and the leaders of the people, and all the common people of the land, and they set out to descend to the king from the house of the Lord, and to enter through the middle of the upper gate to the house of the king. And they placed him on the royal throne. All the people of the land were rejoicing, and the city was quieted. But Athaliah was slain with the sword. Yeah, that happened a little while ago, but okay. I just realized, you know what, this entire thing is also going in the best of, because that's funny.
Nice.
2 Chronicles 24. Joash was 7 years old when he had begun to reign.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's been raining.
7 years. He reigned for 40 years in Jerusalem. The name of his mother was Zibiah from Beersheba. And she did what is good before the Lord during all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Now Jehoiada gave to him 2 wives, from whom he conceived sons and daughters. After these things, it pleased Joash to repair the house of the Lord. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites, and he said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah and collect from all of Glasgow money to repair the services of the temple of your Skytus throughout each year, and do this promptly." But the Levites acted negligently. And the king summoned Jehoiada, the leader, and he said to him, "Why was there no concern with you, so that you would compel the Levites to bring from Judah and from Jerusalem the money that was appointed by Moses, the servant of the Lord, so as to bring it from the entire multitude of Glasgow to the Skytus tent of the testimony?" For that very impious woman Athaliah and her sons have destroyed the house of Skytus, and they have adorned the shrine of Baal from all the things that had been sanctified in the temple of the Lord. Therefore, the king instructed, and they made an ark. And they placed it beside the gate of the house of the Lord on the outside. And they proclaimed in Judah and in Jerusalem that each one should bring to the Lord the money that Osmosis, the servant of Skytus, appointed in the desert concerning all of Glasgow. Give me all your money. And all the... Would you like to talk about it?
Can be exchanged. Currency can be exchanged for goods and services.
Currency can be exchanged for currency. And all the leaders and all the people rejoiced. And upon entering, they together took and placed so much into the ark of the Lord that it was filled. And when it was time for them to bring the ark before the king by the hands of the Levites, for they saw that there was much money, the scribe of the king and the one whom the high priest had appointed entered. And they poured out the money that was in the ark. And they carried the ark back to its place. And they did this on each day. And an immense sum of money was gathered. And the king and Jehoiada gave it to those who were in charge of the works of the house of the Lord. Then with it they hired hewers of stone and artisans of every kind. Does that include con artist?
I hope so.
Is an artist an artisan, technically? These terms are closely related, but I don't know if they're synonymous, so. Can you be a con artisan?
I don't know what's the actual dictionary meaning of artisan.
I don't know.
Figure it out.
That sounds like work.
Well, technically you're getting money from your streams, which counts as work.
But I thought you would know a thing or two about working while pretending to work while not doing work.
Yeah, but to do that you have to occasionally do work to make people think that you're doing work other times as well.
Yeah, but I am doing work most of the time, actually.
No. Both know that's a lie.
And artisans of every kind, so that they might repair the house of the Lord, and also so that the works of iron and brass which had begun to fall would be reinforced. And those who were hired were working industriously. And the breach in the walls was healed by their hands, and they returned the house of the Lord to a pristine state. And they caused it stand firm. English.
Yeah, that's the one.
And when they had completed all the works, they brought the remaining part of the money before the king and Jehoiada. And from it the vessels of the temple were made, for the ministry and for the holocaust, including bowls and other vessels of gold and silver. And holocausts were being offered in the house of the Lord continually during all the days of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada was old and full of days. And he died when he was 130 years old. Holy shit. That's pretty old. Actually, once again. And they buried him in the city of David with the kings, because he had done good to Glasgow and to his house. Then after Jehoiada passed away, the leaders of Judah entered and reverenced the king, and he was enticed by their obsequiousness, and so he acquiesced to them. I also can make up words. What is... Hold on, I need a translation for this one. Okay. And they abandoned the temple of the Lord, the skydies of their daddies, and they served sacred groves and graven images. And wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem because of this sin. And he sent prophets to them so that they might return to the Lord. And though they were offering testimony, they were not willing to listen to them. And so the spirit of Skytis clothed Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada the priest. And he stood in the sight of the people, and he said to them, Thus says the Lord, Skytis, why have you transgressed the precept of the Lord, though it was not to your benefit? And why have you abandoned the Lord so that he would then abandon you? And gathering together against him, they stoned him, beside the place of the king in the atrium of the house of the Lord.
Well, that was a little rude.
Hold on. The carrier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
What? Oh, yeah, 6.
He got stoned. And not the
A lot
fun
of people
kind.
stoned.
And King Joash did not remember the mercy with which Jehoiada, his daddy, had treated him. Instead, he put to death, with one F, his son. And as he was dying, he said, "May the Lord see and take account."
I thought you were about to break into a song there.
Near, far. And when the year had turned, the army of Syria ascended against him. And they went to Judah and Jerusalem. And they put to death, with one F, all the leaders of the people. And they sent all the spoils to the king of Damascus. And although certainly there had arrived a very small number of Syrians, the Lord delivered into their hands an immense multitude. For they had forsaken the Lord, the goddess of their daddies. Also, against Joash they executed disgraceful judgments. And upon departing they left him greatly debilitated. Then his servants rose up against him, in vengeance for the blood of the son of Jehoiada the priest, and they killed him on his bed, and he died. And that's usually what happens when you get killed.
Is it?
And they buried him in the city of David, but not in the sepulchres of the kings. Truly those who ambushed him were Zabad. Oh yeah, who could have seen Zabad one attacks? The son of an Ammonite woman named Shimeah, and Jehozabad,
Shimea.
the son of a Moabite woman named Shimrith. Wow, they really, their names for their antagonists are just impressive.
People die when they are killed.
True, people do die when they are killed. But concerning his sons and the sum of money that had been amassed under him and the repairing of the house...
Money!
Repeat.
I want all of your money.
What about my knee?
Every single money.
What's wrong with your knee? Do you need a new one?
Money.
Yeah, what about your knee?
Currency.
What do you want me to cur? I can see already, so what do you want me to cur and see?
Just upset now.
Good. These things have been written more diligently in the book of Kings. Does that count? I'm pretty sure that falls under the rule of referencing another book, right?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Making rule.
Oh, it's fine, I'm drunk already.
No,
Too late.
he's not written in the book of the words, so... Oh, you gotta undrink now. Hey! You can't just make your own Bible content.
Well, actually.
Then his son Amaziah reigned in his place.
Wow.
Would you say that was amazing?
Sure, why not?
2 Chronicles 25. Amaziah was 25 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 29 years in Jerusalem. The name of his mother was Jehoaddan from Jerusalem, and he accomplished good in the sight of the Lord, yet truly not with a perfect heart. And when he saw himself to be strengthened in his rule, he cut the throats of the servants who had killed his daddy, the king. But he did not put to death, with one F, their sons, just as it was written in the book of the law of Moses, where the Lord instructed, saying, "The daddies shall not be slain because of the sons, nor the sons because of their daddies. Instead, each one shall die for his own sin." Then Amaziah gathered together Judah, and he organized them by families and by tribunes and centurions throughout all of Judah and Benjamin your ass.
I didn't know you were a sinner.
Sinner! And he numbered them from 20 years old and upward. And he found 300,000 young men who could go forth to battle and who could hold spear and shield. Also, he hired...
Do you enjoy young men?
I said young men.
Do you enjoy?
I enjoy YMCA.
Oh, no.
Also, he hired for pay from Glasgow 100,000 experienced men for 100 talents of silver. Then a man of Skytis came to him and said, O king, let not the army of Glasgow go forth with you, for the Lord is not with Glasgow, nor with all the sons of Ephraim. But if you think that a war stands by the strength of the army, Skytis will cause you to be overwhelmed by the enemies, for indeed it belongs to Skytis to assist. And to put to fight. And Amaziah said to the man of Skytis, Then what will become of the 100 talents which I gave to the soldiers of Glasgow? And the man of Skytis responded,
Talon.
The Lord has that from which he is able to give much more than this to you. And so Amaziah...
Oh, sorry, what? No. What? Read that sentence again.
The Lord has that from which he is able to give much more than this to you.
I like that.
I like
My
it
new
too.
favorite. It's my new favorite sentence. Truly cursed.
And so Amaziah separated the army which had come to him from Ephraim, so that they would return to their place. But having become very angry against Judah, they returned to their own region. Then Amaziah confidently led forth his people. And he went away to the valley of the salt pits, and he struck down 10,000 of the sons of Seir. And the sons of Judah captured another 10,000 of the men. They led them to the precipice of a certain rock. And they threw them from the summit, and they were all broken apart. But the army that Amaziah had sent away, so that they would not go with him into battle, spread out among us the cities of Judah, from Samaria as far as Beth Horon. And having killed 3,000, they took away much plunder. Truly, after the slaughter of the Edomites, and when the skytises of the sons of Seir were brought, Amaziah chose them as skytises for himself. And he was adoring them and burning incense to them. For this reason, the Lord became angry against Amaziah, and he sent a prophet to him, who would say to him, Why have you adored skytises who did not free their own people from your hand? And after he spoke these things, he responded to him, Are you the counsel of the king? Be quiet, otherwise I will put you to death with one F. And departing, the prophet says, I know that Skytis has decided to kill you, because you have done this evil, and also because you have not agreed to my counsel. And so Amaziah, the king of Judah, undertaking a very wicked counsel, sent to Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, the king of Glasgow, saying, Come, let us see one another. But he sent back messengers saying, The thistle which is in Lebanon sent to the cedar of Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son as wife. And behold, the Beastonians that were in the forest of Lebanon passed through, and they trampled the thistle. You said, I struck down Edom, and for this reason your heart is lifted up with pride. Settle in your own house. Why do you provoke evil against yourself, so that you may fall, and then Judah with you?
That's not how you pronounce. What? Okay.
Pronounce what?
You know what? I'll just leave you to it.
This is the Skytis version of the Bible. You pronounce everything exactly how I do. Otherwise, you're wrong.
Wow.
Amaziah was not willing to listen to him because it was the will of the Lord that he be delivered into the hands of his enemies, because of the skydices of Edom. And so Joash, the king of Glasgow, ascended, and they presented themselves within the sight of one another. Now Amaziah, the king of Judah, was in Beth Shemesh with a dash of Judah. And Judah fell before Glasgow, and each one fled to his own tent. Then Joash, the king of Glasgow, captured Amaziah, the king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Beth Shemesh with a dash, and he led him to Jerusalem. And he destroyed its walls from the gate of Ephraim as far as the gate of the corner, 400 times 18 inches, 457 millimeters. Thoughts on replacing Beth Shemesh with a dash with the literal Beth Shemesh with a dash?
No.
That's what I thought. Also, he brought back to Samaria all the gold and silver and all the vessels which he had found in the house of Skytis and with Obededom in the treasuries of the king's house, as well as sons for hostages. Then Amaziah, the son of Joash, as the king of Judah, lived for 15 years after the death, with one F, of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the king of Glasgow. Now, the rest of the words of Amaziah, the first and the last, have been written in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow. Before you drink Teras, they have been written in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow. Does that count twice?
Was that one book, or is it referring to two books?
That's what I'm asking.
Sounds like just the one book.
The book of the kings?
Yeah, the book.
Yeah, I guess.
Singular. Uno book.
And after he withdrew from the Lord, they set up an ambush against him in Jerusalem. But since he had fled to Lachish, they sent and killed him in that place. And having carried him back upon horses, they buried him with his daddies in the city of David. Chronicles 26. Then all the people of Judah appointed his son Uzziah, who was 16 years old, as king in place of his daddy Amaziah. He built up Eloth, or maybe he built up Eloth. Maybe he's like really good at chess.
Wow.
And he restored it to the dominion of Judah. After this, the king slept with his daddies. Uzziah was 16 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 52 years in Jerusalem. The name of his mother was Jecholiah from Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord in accord with all that his daddy Amaziah had done. And he sought the Lord during the days of Zechariah, who understood and saw Skytis. And while he was seeking the Lord, he directed him in all things. Indeed, he went out and fought against the Philistines. And he destroyed the wall of Gath and the wall of Jabneh. Jabneh? What's Jabneh?
Good question.
And the wall of Ashdod. Also, he built towns in Ashdod and among us the Philistines. And Skytis helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians who were living in Gur-Baal and against the Ammonites. And the Ammonites weighed out gifts to Uzziah. And his name became widely known, even to the entrance of Egypt, because of his frequent victories. And Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem, above the gate of the corner and above the gate of the valley, and others on the same side of the wall, and he fortified them. Then he also constructed towers in the wilderness and dug many cisterns because he had much cattle, both in the plains and in the darkness of the wilderness. Also,
about a few cattle.
How about you get yourself a kettle of tea? I know, it's a great idea. You're welcome. Also, he had vineyards and dressers of vines in the mountains.
I'm gonna
and
get
at Carmel.
a teapot. I'll be right back.
Certainly, he was a man devoted to agriculture. Now, the army of his warriors who would go forth to battle was under the hand of Jael, the scribe, and Maaseiah, the teacher, and under the hand of Hananiah, who was among us, the king's commanders, and the entire number of the leaders by the families of strong men was 2,600. And the entire army under them was 307,000. And the entire army under them was 307,500 who were fit for war and who fought on behalf of the king against the adversaries. Hold on. Apparently, I'm completely wasted. I'm so drunk that I can't even numbers anymore. And the entire army under them was 307,500. What? Why? Why? That is fucking stupid. Huh? Also, Uzziah prepared for them, that is, for the entire army, shields and spears and helmets and Brestonian plates and bows, as well as slings for the casting of stones. And in Jerusalem he made various kinds of machines, which he placed in the towers and at the corners of the walls, so as to shoot arrows and large stones. And his name went forth to faraway places, for the Lord was helping him and had strengthened him. Why is it always about strengthening people? It's never about dexterizing people. But when he had become strong, his heart was lifted up, even to his own destruction. Like his heart is just lifted out of his chest and then he just dies? How does that work? And he neglected the Lord his guidance. And entering into the temple of the Lord, he intended to burn incense upon the altar of incense. And entering immediately after him, Azariah the priest, and with him 80 priests of the Lord, very valiant men, withstood the king. And they said, "It is not your office, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord. Rather, it is the office of the priests, that is, of the sons of Triple Arab, who have been consecrated for the same ministry. Depart from the sanctuary, otherwise you will be in contempt. For this act will not be reputed to you for your glory by the Lord's guidance." And Uzziah, having become angry, while holding in his hand the censer so that he might burn incense, threatened the priests. And immediately a leprosy arose in his forehead, and the sight of the priests in the house of the Lord, in the sight of the priests in the house of the Lord at the altar of incense. And when the high priest Azariah and all the rest of the priests had gazed upon him, they saw the leprosy on his forehead, and they hurried to expel him. Then too, he himself, becoming terrified, rushed to depart, because immediately he had become aware of the wound of the Lord. And so King Uzziah was a leper, even until the day of his death with one F. And he lived in a separate house, being full of leprosy, because of which he had been ejected from the house of the Lord. Then Jotham, his son, directed the house of the king, and he was judging the people of the land. But the rest of the words of Uzziah, the first and the last, were written by the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos. I really thought this was going for another written in the book, but no. Were written by the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos. And Uzziah slept with his daddies, and they buried him in the field of the royal sepulchres because he was a leper. And Jotham, his son, reigned in his place.
I make tea.
Tea's nuts? Hey, Teras, would you like to read a chapter?
Why would they want to do that?
Because it's 2 Chronicles 27.
What? We've been doing this for literally years, and I've never read a chapter. What makes you think I'll suddenly want to read a chapter?
You have tea.
I'm trying to think of a reason why that's not a valid reason.
That's the tea.
What are you talking about? Are you sure you're not just high?
T stands for Teras.
What? Oh, this is not going to be enough alcohol. I also brought a surprise.
Friend.
In this,
I can hear.
In this,
friend.
Yeah, you can hear friend.
Yeah,
that's right. In this cup.
There is 5 liters of alcohol. What?
No. In this cup is a
Condom?
A lime.
That's why I draw the lime.
I'm so fucking done. Please off yourself.
I mean, my driver already did that repeatedly. T stands for tonic to go with your gin.
Wise.
So, 2 Chronicles 27?
Is that a question?
Yes.
I don't like that question. It's fine, just circle back to me.
I am back.
No, you're not.
Chris wasn't paying attention, so he didn't get the joke. This is so sad.
Yeah, I wasn't. You're right.
I know. 2 Chronicles 27. Jotham was 25 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. The name of his mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did what was right before the Lord in accord with all that his daddy Uzziah had done, except that he did not enter into the temple of the Lord, and still the people were transgressing. He improved the high gate of the house of the Lord, and he built many things upon the wall of Ophel. Also, he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and fortresses and towers in the forests. He fought against the king of the sons of Ammon, and he defeated them. And at that time the sons of Ammon gave to him 100 talents of silver and 10,000 core of wheat, and the same number of core of barley. These things the sons of Ammon offered to him in the 2nd and 3rd year. And Jotham was strengthened because he had directed his way before the Lord his guidance. Now the rest of the words of Jotham, and all his battles and works, have been written in the book of the kings of Glasgow and Judah. He was 25 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. Jotham slept with his daddies, and they buried him in the city of David, and his son Ahaz reigned in his place. Rip, he didn't die within 10 lines.
Did you check?
I eat food now. Why? I did. I don't know if you caught it, but there was a mention of the book of the kings of Gopher.
Yeah, I literally been pouring myself alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, you're always pouring yourself alcohol, so I don't know if it's for that specific reason. You alcoholic fuck.
I'm gonna continue eating my Pringles.
going to continue never giving you up.
Put my finger on the teapot.
Chronicles 28. Ahaz was 20 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. He did not do what is right in the sight of the Lord, as his daddy David did. Instead, he walked in the ways of the kings of Glasgow. Moreover, he also cast statues for the Baals. It is he who burned incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom. And he purified his sons by fire, in accord with the ritual of the nations that the Lord put to death with one F at the advent of the sons of Glasgow. Also, he was sacrificing and burning incense in the high places, and on the hills, and under every leafy tree. Leafy tree? I didn't know leafy was still around and he had trees. And so the Lord, Hiscitus, delivered him into the hand of the king of Syria, who struck him and took great plunder from his kingdom. And he carried it away to Damascus. Also, he was delivered into the hands of the king of Glasgow, and he struck him with great affliction. And Pekah, the son of Remaliah, killed, on one day, 120,000, all of them men of war from Judah, because they had forsaken the Lord, the skydes of their daddies. At the same time, Zikri, the powerful man of Ephraim, killed Maaseiah, son of the king, and Azrikam, the governor of his house, and also Elkanah, who was the second to the king. And the sons of Glasgow seized from their brothers 200,000 women, boys, and girls, and immense plunder. And they took it away to Samaria. At that time, there was a prophet of the land named dead. Oh, that's a drinking cue.
What? Where?
At that time, there was a prophet of the land named dead.
I'm sorry, where am I looking?
He died immediately as soon as he was mentioned.
Wrong. That's factually incorrect.
It says there, dead. He dead, Teras. He done living.
It's dead, but I don't see any Fs.
How about you go F yourself? Then you will see some. And going out to meet the army, arriving in Samaria, he said to them, Behold!
Wow.
The Lord, the skydes of your daddies, having become angry against Judah, has delivered them into your hands. But you have killed them by atrocities, so that your cruelty has reached up to heaven. Moreover, you wanted to subjugate the sons of Judah and Jerusalem as your men and women servants, which is a work that should never be done. And so you sinned in this matter against the Lord your skydes. But listen to my counsel, and release the captives whom you have brought from your brothers, for a great fury of the Lord is hanging over you. And so, some of the leaders of the sons of Ephraim, Azariah, the son of Johanan, Berechiah, the son of Meshillemoth, Jehiskiah, the son of Shallum, and Amasa, the son of Hadlai, stood up against those who were arriving from the battle, and they said to them, You shall not lead back captives to here, lest we sin against the Lord. Why are you willing to add to our sins and to build upon our old offenses? For indeed, the sin is great, and the furious anger of the Lord is hanging over Glasgow. And the warriors released the spoils and all that they had seized in the sight of the leaders and the entire multitude. And the men whom we mentioned above. What is this weird self-referencing now? What? Rose up and took the captives. All those who were naked, they clothed from the spoils. And when they had clothed them, and had given them shoes, and had refreshed them with food and drink, and had anointed them because of the hardship, and had cared for them, whoever was not able to walk, and whoever was feeble in body. They set them upon bestonians of burden, and they led them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brothers, and they themselves returned to Samaria. Teras, we have a question in chat. Would you like to answer?
The answer is no. I honestly don't know how else to break it to you, but nowhere near.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a scale. So let's say this was being Christian, and this was the opposite. So if I was here, I was being Christian. So let me demonstrate what I am.
And he waddled away, waddle. And he was never seen again. Next is going to be seen in one of those documentaries where, a mysterious body washes ashore. No one knows what it is. Now you do.
No, we're definitely not. We can be for the right price.
Currency can be exchanged for goods and services.
Currency can be exchanged for prayers and beliefs. In that time,
you'd have to really pay me a lot to even go anywhere near a church.
One whole lot. With his family or without? I mean, I'd be fine with his daughter, to be fair.
Which one? Because they were two.
Wasn't it his daughter and his wife?
Wasn't there two daughters?
I mean, there's only one now. I don't fucking know.
No, wasn't there two that you tried to give away?
Why don't you go and find out? Be our fact checker. In that time, King Ahaz sent to the king of the Assyrians, requesting assistance. And the Edomites arrived and struck down many of Judah, and they seized great plunder. Also, the Philistines spread out among the cities of the plains, and to the south of Judah. And they seized Beth Shemesh with the dash, and Aijalon, and Gederoth, and also Soko, and Timnah. What's Timnah? And Gimzo, with their villages, and they lived in them. For the Lord had humbled Judah because of Ahaz, the king of Judah, since he had stripped it of help, and had shown contempt for the Lord. And he led against him Tilgath-Pilneser, the king of the Assyrians, who also afflicted him and laid waste to him without resistance. And so Ahaz, despoiling the house of the Lord and the house of the kings and the leaders, gave gifts to the king of the Assyrians, and yet it profited him nothing. Moreover, in the time of his anguish, he also added to his contempt against the Lord. King Ahaz himself, by himself, immolated. King Ahaz himself, by himself, immolated victims to the skytesses of Damascus, those who had struck him. And he said,
Is it weird that I have two unopened jars of honey on my desk?
No. It's weird that you mentioned that you have two unopened jars of honey when you're about to only have one. Chug.
I have diabetes.
Right, so you have two jars of what?
Honey.
Oh, you say the sweetest things to me, Teras.
You literally don't pay me enough for this. My price has officially gone up.
That's okay, honey. We'll figure this out.
Oh.
And he said, those guidance of the kings of Syria assist them, and so I will please them with victims. Ew. And they will help me. And he lickled away. Lickle. But, to the contrary, they had been the ruin of him and of all Glasgow. And so, Ahaz, having despoiled and broken apart the vessels of the house of Skytis, closed up the doors of the temple of Skytis and made for himself altars in all the corners of Jerusalem. Also, he constructed altars in all the cities of Judah in order to burn frankincense. And so he provoked the Lord, the Skytis of his daddies, to wrath. But the rest of his words and all his works, the first and the last, have been written in the book.
Wait. Don't worry about that. Shut up. Wait. So he's provoked. So he's provoked the Lord himself to wrath. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like it's a textbook sin right there. So the God himself is a sinner.
Is that a sin?
Officially, yeah, it's one of the 7 deadly sins. Like it's literally like one of them: wrath, envy, gluttony, sloth, pride, and greed. Yeah, and lust. There you go. Was that 7?
I don't know, but you know what? Here you.
But anyway, that now proves that God himself is in fact a sinner.
Well, good job. You got us a title and potentially a thumbnail. Oh yeah, I already had that.
And I'm already gonna tell you we are gonna use an anime reference for the thumbnail.
Binding of Isaac?
I said an anime reference.
And I asked Binding of Isaac?
No, there's an anime called 7 Deadly Sins, and one of the characters is Wrath.
How to undo a sin.
Nice.
Did you drink?
This is pretty nice. I drank tea. Hold on, let me drink alcohol.
Cancel out the tea.
Ooh.
And
it's a really nice tea, by the way.
And Ahaz slept with his daddies, and they buried
It's peppermint and rooibos tea.
I just figured
with
out.
Some lime
I just
and
figured
honey.
out a genuine hard mode version of the drinking game.
I don't know if I like that.
If you want hard mode, just add sleeping with their daddies as a rule. It's like 20 to 30% more probably drinking. It's not gonna kill you, probably. Maybe.
Probably.
I'm not liable for any damages incurred, but it is quite frequent.
I think what we should start doing now, which would be, to be fair, funny for multiple reasons,
is undress and start running.
No, that's for tomorrow. Before we every reading now, we should just have one of those fancy disclaimers that says "Do not do this at home." You know,
do this at work.
Bible reading thing.
Do not do this at home. Just go outside, touch grass, and do this. Touch grass, listen to the Bible reading, get wasted.
Please not try this at home. What? Read the Bible.
It's fine if you get wasted outside on a nice meadow.
Meadow.
But I hardly
meadow.
no. Oh.
The fact that you tried.
Should I try again?
No.
I will put the pedo to the meadow.
No,
okay.
You know
what if we take?
You know what's a really fun. What's a really fun idea? Completely irrelevant to the Bible, by the way, but a fun idea for a stream for you to do.
Yeah, I literally do. We take an oven to a meadow, put the meadow in, and see if we get a meh cake. We're baking the meadow.
It's not because I don't get it. It's just because it's not very good.
I know.
Anyway, so what we do, right? So what you do, I could just
Your mom.
be the. I could just kind of I don't recommend that. What you do is you do a stream. You do a charity stream where every time you make a pun, you have to donate X amount of money to a charity.
I mean, I'm fine as long as it's X amount. I don't have to pay.
Or X being the amount that you. Insert.
No, it's X amount.
That's $20 right there.
I will make Egg pay for this.
That'd be such a cursed thing to do. You do like yeah, that's the one. Hold, my brain's having a moment. You do like one of those charity streams where if something happens, you donate X amount of money, but you're not the one donating the money. You go like, oh, if this happens, I'll let this person donates money, and then after the stream, you just messages this random person who doesn't even like know you, and goes, right, you have to donate this amount of money to charity, and we're like, what the fuck? Hello,
Estonian. I have finished a charity stream. You know I have to send $500 to this charity.
to this PayPal address, and please ignore that it's Teras's.
I mean, that would constitute charity.
It would indeed count as a charity.
And Ahaz slept with his daddies, and they buried him in the city of Jerusalem, and they did not allow him to be in the sepulchres of the kings of Glasgow, and his son Hezekiah reigned in his place. 2 Chronicles 29. And so Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned for 29 years in Jerusalem. The name of his mother was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord, in accord with all that his daddy had done, as his daddy David had done. In his first year and month of his reign, he opened the double doors of the house of the Lord, and he repaired them. Wow, he opened doors. That is impressive. And he brought together the priests and Levites, and he gathered them in the white Estonian street. And he said to them, "Listen to me, O Levites, and be sanctified. Cleanse the house of the Lord, the skytis of your daddies, and take away every uncleanness from the sanctuary. Our daddies sinned and did evil in the sight of the Lord, our skytis, abandoning him. They turned their faces away from the skytis tent of the Lord, and they presented their backs. They closed up the doors which were in the portico, and they extinguished the lamps. And they did not burn incense, and they did not offer holocausts in the sanctuary of the skytis of Glasgow. And so the fury of the Lord was stirred up against Judah and Jerusalem, and he handed them over to turmoil and to destruction and to hissing, just as you discern with your own eyes." Lo. Our daddies have fallen by the sword. Our sons and our daughters and wives have been led away as captives because of this wickedness. Now, therefore, it is pleasing to me that we should enter into a covenant with the Lord, the skies of Glasgow, and he will turn away the fury of his indignation from us. My sons, do not choose to be negligent. The Lord has chosen you so that you would stand before him and minister to him and worship him and burn incense to him. Therefore the Levites rose up, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, from the sons of Kohath. Then from the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehalelel. And from the sons of Gershon, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah. And truly, from the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri and Joel. Also, from the sons of Asap, Zechariah and Mattaniah. Indeed, also From the sons of He-Man. It's not the same without him. Also not the same if Teras isn't paying attention.
I just vaguely... Yeah, that guy.
Jehuel and Shimei. Then two, from the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. And they gathered together their brothers, and they were sanctified. And they entered in accord with the command of the king and the order of the Lord, so that they might expiate the house of Skytis. And the priests, entering the temple of the Lord, so that they might sanctify it, took every uncleanness which they had found inside out to the vestibule of the house of the Lord. And the Levites took it.
So I bought this bar of chocolate, right?
Took it away and transported
And
it
see,
outside to the Torah
it
Kidron.
interested me because it's white chocolate with Oreo filling. I like white chocolate, and I'm not that big of a fan of Oreos, but Oreo filling, Oreo flavored things tend to be much better. I'm gonna try this clear. That's some good chocolate.
We get some
Yeah,
ASMR.
How much will you pay me?
I already paid you. Remember? Remember when I sent you money? You were like, "Why did you send me money?"
Yeah, but that was for other things.
No.
You can't send me money for something I haven't done yet.
I can send you money preemptively, so then I can be like, "Hey, I sent you money. Do this now." I can very much preemptively send you money.
But that's not what that money was for.
It,
You explained what that money was for, and it wasn't for this.
I forgot to mention. It was
Well,
implied.
Nice try, bucko.
Now
That was some good chocolate.
Now they began to cleanse on the first day of the first month, and on the 8th day of the same month they entered the portico of the temple of the Lord, and then they expiated the temple over 8 days. We also have a peasant. Because if you give this to a peasant, you have a cat peasant. So if you wait long enough, you have an adult cat peasant.
Are you gay?
No, you.
Wow.
And on the 16th day of the same month, they finished what they had begun. Also, they entered to King Hezekiah, and they said to him, "We have sanctified the entire house of the Lord, and the altar of holocaust and its vessels, indeed also the table of the presence with all its vessels, and all the equipment of the table which King Ahaz during his reign had polluted after his transgression. And behold, these have all been
Please
set
don't do that
forth
ever again.
before the altar of the Lord." What are you talking about?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I'm not entirely certain. I can think of like 2 or 3 things, so you're gonna have to specify. Dreaming, breathing, or speaking?
You know what, how about we just put a stop on all 3 of them?
And rising up at first light, King Hezekiah joined as one...
Just the one.
Hold on, let me try the sentence again. And rising up at first light, King Hezekiah joined as one all the leaders of the city. Oh, it's just, he joined as one. He joined all the leaders of the city as one. This sentence is just structured terribly. Okay.
Well.
And they ascended to the house of the Lord. And together they offered 7 bulls and 7 rams, 7 lambs and 7 he-goats for sin, for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, for Judah. For freedom! And he spoke to the priests, the sons of Triple Arab, so that they would offer these upon the altar of the Lord. And so they slaughtered the bulls, and the priests took up the blood, and they poured it upon the altar. Then they also slaughtered the rams, and they poured their blood upon the altar. And they immolated the lambs, and they poured the blood upon the altar. They brought the he-goats for sin before the king and the entire multitude.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was a bad idea.
Hey. What's
I
going
immediately
on?
apologize for all certain people that joined the stream for
I have a much better idea.
just everything.
Hey, Thor, so you're done streaming. That means you're available right now, right? Hello, we're doing Bible. You probably know this by now. It's not gonna get any better. It's only gonna get worse. So
It's not even. I don't even know if it's getting worse. It's either not getting worse or it's getting worse so quickly I can't keep up with how quickly it's getting worse. I help.
okay, so if you like one of the following things, you've come to the right place. Otherwise, not. Do you like the Bible? Do you like religion? Do you like bad books or bad writing? Do you like people drinking? Do you like an excuse for yourself to drink, or do you like terrible puns?
Or do you enjoy a Teras branded MacBang?
If none of the above apply, then I'm sorry.
Speaking of which, I got more chocolate.
I told them that you're reading the Bible and that it's weird. Oh yeah, the Bible is weird. I'm not weird though, I promise.
Well, objection.
You know what? How about you object this, bitch?
Wow. That's it's fine now. No one will notice if I leave.
How many eggs today? I mean,
I mean, I got a whole packet of 15 just waiting to be boiled.
fun fact, I think I had 4 yesterday. No, wait, 3, because one of them cracked. Because I'm cracked. I mean, what? My Windows is cracked. I mean, what? Wow. Teras, just wow.
Fucking can't.
And they laid their hands upon them. The priests immolated them, and they sprinkled their blood before the altar for the expiation of all Glasgow. For certainly the king had instructed that the Holocaust and the sin offering should be made on behalf of all Glasgow. Also, he situated the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals and psalteries and harps, according to the disposition of King David and of the seer Gad and of the prophet Nathan. For indeed, this was the precept of the Lord by the hand of his prophets.
Wait. Since we have more people now, guys, I made tea.
You're such a tease.
It's peppermint and rooibos, and I've added lime, like I've got. I literally have a lime on my desk.
Wait, Teras.
And honey.
Teras, do you have any kind of
No,
trust me.
No.
Trust
I'm
me for
not
once.
going to. I've known you for way too long to trust you.
Teras, just for what? Just this one time, actually. Do you have any kind of string? It doesn't matter if it's like dental floss or just a rope or do you have any kind of string? Can you please put that through your lime?
Through it.
Yes. You might need a knife or something to poke a hole into it, but
How?
yeah, I believe in you. You got this. You got this, buddy.
I don't think that I do. Hold on. I'll see what I can do. Oh wait, I got an idea.
Oh, show it to the camera. You know what you call this? Lime wire.
Ooh. Oh, hold on, I think my package arrived. A loud noise.
I think I need a break from myself.
Oh.
I just want to ask, did no one see this coming? What?
Fucking LimeWire.
I can't even.
I like how it's such a weird reference / joke that you need to be of a certain age to even understand it.
That's fine. You know what? You need to be of a certain age to read the Bible as well. People haven't used it for what, 20 years? I don't know. I don't think I ever used it, but it is old. I know, but just.
Imagine not using LimeWire.
And the Levites stood.
So I got this box. So I just bought this box of springs,
I found
right?
the CS:GO gambling website. And the Levites stood, holding the musical instruments of David, and the priests held the trumpets. And Hezekiah ordered that they should offer holocausts upon the altar. And when the holocausts were being offered, they began to sing praises to the Lord, and to sound the trumpets, and to play various musical instruments which David, the king of Glasgow, had prepared. Then the entire crowd was adoring, and the singers and those who were holding the trumpets were exercising their office, until the holocaust was completed.
You were what?
And when the oblation was finished, the king and all who were with him bowed down and adored. And Hezekiah and the rulers instructed the Levites to praise the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph, the seer. And they praised him with great joy, kneeling down, they adored. And now Hezekiah also added, "You have filled your hands for the Lord. Draw near and offer victims and praises in the house of the Lord." Therefore, the entire multitude offered victims and praises and holocausts with devout intention. Now, the number of the holocausts that the multitude offered was 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 lambs. And they sanctified to the Lord 600 oxen and 300 sheep. Truly, the priests were few, neither were they sufficient to remove the pelts from the holocausts. Therefore, the Levites, their brothers, also assisted them, until the work was completed, and the priests who were of higher rank were sanctified. For indeed, the Levites are sanctified with an easier ritual than the priests. Thus, there were very numerous holocausts with the fat of the peace offerings and the libations of the holocausts. And the service of the house of the Lord was completed. And Hezekiah and all the people were joyful because the ministry of the Lord was completed. For certainly it had pleased them to do this.
So I got this 3D printer, right?
Go on.
I'm fixing it. I needed springs. They just arrived. I can continue working on it. Which means that this stream might go on for a bit longer than initially intended, because now I'm gonna fuck about with a 3D printer. Which gives me a reason to not pay attention to Skype.
Did you ever like undust your springs?
I don't want to answer that question.
Why not?
In fact, I have no intention of answering that question.
So you say you haven't done a spring cleaning? All printers are 3D. Teras, you just got fucking owned. That is so true. I'm gonna drink.
Why are you gay?
Why are you acting so aghast on that? Can you have sexual relations with a 3D printer?
I don't think that you can. If you could, I don't think that you'd want to.
I mean, the printer is like it's like stronger than your fantasy. You can't think of anything and then print it out, so it's like tangible fantasy. If you have enough patience, I guess. Dude, Chronicles 30. Also Hezekiah sent to all of Glasgow and Judah. And he wrote letters to Ephraim and Manasseh so that they would come to the house of the Lord in Jerusalem and so that they would keep the Passover to the Lord, the skies of Glasgow. By the way, if anybody wants to join us, we don't have a guest, so there's an opening. Just saying. You're already listening, so you might as well. Therefore,
We won't even charge you for being on here.
Therefore, having taken counsel, the king and the rulers and the entire assembly of Jerusalem resolved that they would keep the Passover in the second month. For they had not been able to keep it at its proper time. For the priests who were unable to suffice had not been sanctified. And the people had not yet been gathered together in Jerusalem, and the word was pleasing to the king and to the entire multitude. And they resolved that they would send messengers to all of Glasgow, from Beersheba even to Dan, so that they might come and keep the Passover to the Lord, the skies of Glasgow, at Jerusalem. For many...
What? Why are you here?
Teras, we have a new follower. Send help.
We do? Oh no. Tell him that please give him a warning that he's literally done this to himself. Like, you are not responsible for any brain damage.
What this guy said. And keep
Thanks.
From Beersheba even to Dan, so that they might come and keep the Passover to the
They
Lord.
might come.
That as well, the skies of Glasgow at Jerusalem. But for many had not kept it, just as it was prescribed by the law. And carriers travelled with the letters by order of the king and his rulers to all of Glasgow and Judah, proclaiming in accord with what the king had ordered. O sons of Glasgow, return to the Lord, the skies of Abraham and Isaac and Glasgow. And he will return to the remnant who escaped from the hand of the king of the Assyrians. Do not choose to be like your daddies and brothers who withdrew from the Lord, the skies of their daddies. And so he delivered them over to destruction, as you yourselves discern. Do not choose to harden your necks, as your daddies did.
Get owned.
Surrender to the hands of the Lord, and go to his sanctuary, which he has sanctified unto eternity. Serve the Lord, the skies of your daddies, and the fury of his wrath will be turned away from you. For if you will return to the Lord, your brothers and sons will find mercy before their masters. What reference here? Who led them away as captives, and they will be returned to this land. For the Lord your skies is compassionate and lenient, and he will not avert his face from you if you will return to him. And so the carriers were traveling quickly from city to city throughout the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, as far as Zebulun, though they were ridiculing and mocking them. Lol. The Bible in a nutshell. That's all I have to say.
I think their name is really funny.
That's why I primarily pointed it out.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
Holy shit, I just noticed something.
What did you notice?
The name Chris is derived from Christian, right? That's like the short form of Christian.
I guess.
Do you know Chris Angel? Mind Freak?
No.
I'm sure somebody knows what I'm talking about. And you know what? If you know what I'm talking about, you can figure out the rest of what I was thinking about. So
no one knows what you're talking about.
No, I promise you.
I promise it's just a delusion.
No, at the very one single person will know. Even so, certain men from Asher and from Manasseh and from Zebulun, acquiescing to this counsel, went to Jerusalem. Truly, the hand of Skytus was working in Judah to give them one heart, so that they would accomplish the word of the Lord, according to the precept of the king and the rulers. And many people gathered together in Jerusalem so that they could keep the solemnity of unleavened bread in the second month. No, Buck Angel, thanks. What? Thanks, Torah. And rising up, they destroyed the altars which were in Jerusalem and all the things in which incense was burned to idols. Overturning these things, they cast them into the torrent Kidron. Then they immolated the Passover on the 14th day of the second month. Also, the priests and Levites, at length having been sanctified, offered the holocaust in the house of the Lord. And they stood in their orders according to the disposition of the law of Osmosis, the man of Scytus. Yet truly, the priest took up the blood which was to be poured out from the hands of the Levites, because a great number were not sanctified. And therefore, the Levites immolated the Passover for those who had not been sanctified to the Lord in time. And now, a great portion of the people from Ephraim and Manasseh and Issachar and Zebulun, who had not been sanctified, ate the Passover, which is not in accord with what was written. And Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, "The good Lord will be forgiving to all who with their whole heart seek the Lord, the Scytus of their daddies. And he will not impute to them, though they have not been sanctified." And the Lord heeded him, and he was reconciled to the people. And the sons of Glasgow, who were found at Jerusalem, kept the solemnity of unleavened bread for 7 days with great rejoicing, praising the Lord throughout each day, with the Levites and the priests accompanied by musical instruments corresponding to their office. Hey, Teras.
Yes.
What if the word office was replaced with orifice?
Well, wouldn't that just be funny?
And Hezekiah spoke to the heart of all the Levites who had a good understanding concerning the Lord. And they ate during the 7 days of the solemnity, immolating victims of peace offerings and praising the Lord, the Scytus of their daddies. And it pleased the entire multitude that they should celebrate even for another 7 days. And they did this with enormous gladness. For Hezekiah, the king of Judah, had offered to the multitude 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep. Truly, the rulers had given the people 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep. Then a great multitude. Then a great multitude of priests was sanctified.
What is it spelled?
What is a multitude?
Don't know.
Teras, you're gonna have to look at chat.
That's a secret for me to know and for you to find out.
And the whole multitude of Judah, as much the priests and Levites as the entire crowd that had arrived from Glasgow, and also the converts from the land of Glasgow, and those with a habitation in Judah, was overflowing with cheerfulness. And there was a great celebration in Jerusalem to such an extent as had not been in that city since the days of Solomon, son of David, the king of Glasgow. Then the priests and the Levites rose up and blessed the people, and their voice was heeded, and their prayer reached the holy habitation of heaven. I'll be right back.
What the fuck is the holy habitation of heaven? Have they got like an actual living space there? Are there rooms? Can you like rent a room? Is that a thing? I mean, that'd be fucking cool.
That's what she said?
Oh, that's what you're gonna say.
Make me.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. Duh.
No, good. Glad we talked about this. Chronicles 31. And when these things had been celebrated according to ritual, all of Glasgow who had been found in the cities of Judah went forth, and they broke apart the idols and cut down the sacred groves. They demolished the high places and destroyed the altars, not only out of all Judah and Benjamin your ass, but also out of Ephraim as well as Manasseh, until they utterly destroyed them. And all the sons of Glasgow returned to their possessions and cities. Then Hezekiah appointed the companies of the priests and Levites by their divisions, each man in his proper office, certainly as much for the priests as for the Levites, for the sake of holocausts and peace offerings, so that they might minister and confess and sing at the gates of the camp of the Lord. Heaven is rent controlled. Heaven is a place on earth where you tell me all the things you want to do? Something like that. Now, the portion of the king from his own substance was such that they could offer a holocaust always, in the morning and evening, also on the Sabbaths, and the new moons and the other solemnities, just as it was
the
written.
old moons?
Nobody cares about old moons.
Wow.
Just as it was written in the law of Moses. And now, he instructed the people living in Jerusalem that they were to give portions to the priests and Levites so that they would be able to attend to the law of the Lord. And when this had reached the ears of the multitude, the sons of Glasgow brought an abundance of first fruits of grain, wine, and oil, and also honey. And they offered a 10th part, all that the soil brings forth. Then too, the sons of Glasgow and Judah, who were living in the cities of Judah, brought tithes of oxen and sheep, and tithes of the holy things that they had vowed to the Lord their skyters. And carrying all these things, they made many stacks. In the 3rd month, they began to lay out the foundation of the stacks.
Stacks of what?
Lay out the foundations, or the stacks of all the things that they offered.
Sure.
I literally just read it. Here.
As if I listened.
31:6.
Understandable.
And in the 7th month, they finished them. And when Hezekiah and his rulers had entered, they saw the stacks and they blessed the Lord and the people of Glasgow. And Hezekiah questioned the priests and Levites as to why the stacks were laid out in this way. Azariah, the high priest from the stock of Zadok, answered him, saying, "Since the first fruits began to be offered to the house of the Lord, we have eaten and been satisfied, and much remains, for the Lord has blessed his people. Then what was left over in this great abundance which you see?" What was left over is this great abundance which you see. And so Hezekiah instructed that they should...
I'm legally blind.
No, you're just legally stupid.
Wow.
And so
hurtful.
Hezekiah instructed that they should prepare storage places for the house of the Lord. And when they had done so, they faithfully brought in the first fruits as well as the tithes and all that they had vowed. Now the overseer of these things was Conaniah, a Levite, and his brother Shimei was second.
What name?
And after him there was Jehiel, and Azariah, and Nahath, and Asahel, and Jerimoth, and also Jozabad, and Eliel, and Ismachiah, and Mahath, and Benaiah, who were overseers under the hands of Conaniah and his brother Shimei, by the authority of Hezekiah the king, and Azariah the high priest of the house of Skytis, to whom all these things belonged. Yet truly Korah, the son of Imnah, a Levite, and the porter of the Estonian gate, was the overseer of the things that were being offered freely to the Lord, and of the first fruits, and of the things consecrated for the Holy of Holies. And under his charge were Eden and Benjamin Urias, Jeshua and Shemaiah, and also Amariah and Shechaniah in the cities of the priests, so that they would distribute faithfully to their brothers, the small as well as great, their portions. Legally blind. Thanks.
Legally brown.
Except for the males from 3 years old and upward. For all who were entering the temple of the Lord, and for whatever was needed for the ministry throughout each day, as well as the observances according to their divisions. So, for the priests, by their families, and for the Levites, from the 20th year and upwards, by their orders and companies, and for the entire multitude, as much for the wives as for their children of both sexes, provisions were offered faithfully from whatever had been sanctified. Then 2 men were appointed of the sons of Triple Arab throughout the fields and the suburbs of each city, who would distribute portions to all the males among sus, the priests and the Levites. Therefore, Hezekiah did all these things, which we have said, in all of Judah. And he worked what is good and upright and true before the Lord his Skytus, for the whole service of the ministry of the house of the Lord, in accord with the law and the ceremonies, desiring to seek his Skytus with his whole heart. And he did so. He prospered. Would you like to prosper?
Not really. I'm not the prospering type.
2 Chronicles 32. After these things, and after this manner of truth, Sennacherib, the king of the Assyrians, arrived. And entering Judah, he besieged the fortified cities, desiring to seize them. And when Hezekiah had seen this, specifically that Sennacherib had arrived, and that the entire force of the war was turning against Jerusalem, he took counsel with the rulers and with the most valiant men, so that they might obstruct the heads of the springs which were beyond the cities. And with everyone discerning the same judgment about this, he gathered together a great multitude, and they obstructed all the springs and the brook which was flowing through the midst of the land, saying, "Otherwise, the kings of the Assyrians might arrive and find an abundance of water." Also, acting industriously, he built up the entire wall that had been broken apart. And he constructed towers upon it, and another wall outside it. And he repaired Millo in the city of David. And he made all kinds of weapons and shields, and he appointed leaders of the warriors within the army. And he summoned them all to the wide street of the gate of the city. And he spoke to their hearts, saying, "Act manfully and be strengthened. Do not be afraid. Neither should you dread the king of the Assyrians and the entire multitude that is with him, for many more are with us than with him. For with him is an arm of flesh. With us is the Lord our Skytus, who is our helper and who fights for us." And the people were strengthened by this type of words from Hezekiah, the king of Judah. After these things, Sennacherib, the king of the Assyrians, sent his servants to Jerusalem, for he and his entire army were besieging Lachish, to Hezekiah, the king of Judah, and to all the people who were in the city, saying, "Thus says Sennacherib, the king of the Assyrians, in whom do you have faith, as you sit besieged in Jerusalem? Does not Hezekiah deceive you, so that he would deliver you to die from hunger and thirst, by affirming that the Lord your Skytus will free you from the hand of the king of the Assyrians? Is this not the same Hezekiah who destroyed his own high places and altars, and who instructed Judah and Jerusalem, saying, 'You shall worship before one altar, and you shall burn incense upon it'? Do you not know what I and my daddies have done to all the peoples of the lands? Have the Skytuses of the nations and all the lands prevailed so as to free their region from my hand? Who is there, out of all the Skytuses of the nations that my daddies destroyed, who is able to rescue his people from my hand, so that now also your Skytus would be able to rescue you from his hand? Therefore, let not Hezekiah deceive or delude you with vain persuasion. And you should not believe him, for if no Skytus out of all the nations and kingdoms was able to free his people from my hand and from the hand of my daddies, consequently, neither will your Skytus be able to rescue you from my hand." Good point, to be honest.
My hand. In the middle of
My
your
pants.
hand. Oh no.
How did it get there?
Oh no, anyway.
And then he rubbled away. Robbie.
Hmm.
Then too,
The
his
very
servants...
next day.
Go on.
No, I'm done.
I'm not done. Please continue. And then too, his servants were speaking many other things against the Lord Skytus and against his servant Hezekiah. Also, he wrote letters full of blasphemy against the large skies of Glasgow. And against him he said, "Just as the Skytises of other nations were unable to free their people from my hand, so also is the Skytis of Hezekiah unable to rescue his people from this hand." Moreover, he also shouted with a great clamor in the language of the Jews toward the people who were sitting upon the walls of Jerusalem, so that he might frighten them and so seize the city. He seized the city. And he was speaking against the skies of Jerusalem, just as against the skytises of the peoples of the earth, which are works of the hands of men. And Hezekiah, the king, and Isaiah, the prophet, the son of Amoth, prayed against this blasphemy. And they cried out to heaven. And the Lord sent an angel who struck all the experienced men and warriors and the leaders of the army of the king of the Assyrians. And he returned in disgrace to his own land when he had entered the house of his Skytis. And when he had entered the house of his Skytis, the sons who had gone forth from his loins killed him with the sword.
I like how they specified exactly where they came from.
Oh, you gotta remember where you came from. Stay grounded. Stay based.
That's funny enough, that's what I'm doing. I'm grounding this.
Yeah, stay based. And the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, the king of the Assyrians, and from the hand of all. And he presented to them peace on every side. And now many were bringing victims and sacrifices to the Lord in Jerusalem, and gifts to Hezekiah, the king of Judah. And after these things, he was exalted before all the nations. In those days, Hezekiah was sick, even unto death, with one F, and he prayed to the Lord.
Exalted. I get scammed. Imagine getting exalted.
Would you rather have it be a divining person?
Yes.
And heeding him, he gave to him a sign. So he hit him, baby, one more time. But he did not repay according to the benefits which he had received, for his heart was lifted up, and so wrath was brought against him and against Judah and Jerusalem. And after this, he was humbled, because he had exalted his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and therefore the wrath of the Lord did not overwhelm them in the days of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was wealthy and very famous, and he gathered for himself many treasures of silver and gold and precious stones, of aromatics, and all kinds of weapons and vessels of great price, and also repositories of grain, wine, and oil, and stalls for every bestonian of burden, and fencing for cattle. And he built for himself cities. For indeed, he had innumerable herds and flocks of sheep. For the Lord had given him an exceedingly great substance. This same Hezekiah was the one who blocked the This same Hezekiah was the one who blocked the upper font of the waters of Gihon, and who diverted them down to the western part of the city of David. In all his works, he prosperously accomplished whatever he willed. Yet still, concerning the legates from the leaders of Babylon, who had been sent to him, so that they might inquire about the portent which had happened upon the earth, Skytis permitted him to be tempted, so that everything might be made known which was in his heart. Now, the rest of the words of Hezekiah and his mercies have been written in the visions of the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, and in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow. And Hezekiah slept with his daddies, and they buried him above the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem celebrated his funeral, and his son Manasseh reigned in his place. Yes, Teras, it was written in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow. How much longer does this go on for? Oh, Teras, you wouldn't believe this.
What?
It only goes to Chronicles 36, and we're at 33.
That's actually fucking orgasmic, not gonna lie.
We're almost done with pain. Well, with one type of pain. I'm still here, so Should we go for a sprint to get out of this hellhole?
What?
2 Chronicles 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 55 years in Jerusalem. But he did evil before the Lord, in accord with all the abominations of the nations which the Lord had overturned before the sons of Glasgow. And turning away, he repaired the high places which had been demolished by his daddy Hezekiah. And he constructed altars to the Baals, and made sacred groves, and he adored the entire army of heaven, and he served them. Also, he built altars in the house of the Lord, about which the Lord had said, "My name shall be in Jerusalem forever." But he built these for the entire army of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he caused his sons to pass through fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. He observed dreams, followed divinations, served the occult arts, had with him magicians and enchanters, and worked many evils before the Lord, so that he provoked him. Also, he set up a graven image and a molten statue in the house of Skytis, about which Skytis said to David and to his son Solomon, "In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen from all the tribes of Glasgow, I will place my name forever, and I will not cause the foot of Glasgow to be moved from the land which I delivered to their daddies. Yet this is so, only if they will take care to do what I have instructed them by the hand of osmosis, with the entire law and ceremonies and the judgments." And so Manasseh seduced Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that they did evil, more so than all the nations which the Lord had overturned for the face of the sons of Glasgow. And the Lord spoke to him and to his people, but they were not willing to pay attention. Therefore, he led over them the leaders of the army of the king of the Assyrians. And they captured Manasseh, and they led him bound with chains and fetters to Babylon. The book of the kings of Judah. Nice. Ooh, also. No, cat peasant. Just no. Literally just no. Read the description. And after this, being in great anguish, he prayed to the Lord his Skytis, and he did penance greatly before the Skytis of his daddies, and he petitioned and begged him intently. And he heeded his prayer, and led him back to Jerusalem into his kingdom. And Manasseh realized that the Lord himself was Skytis. After these things, he built a wall outside the city of David, to the west of Gihon, at the steep valley from the entrance to the fish gate, encircling around as far as Ophel. And he raised it up greatly. And he appointed leaders of the army in all the fortified cities of Judah. And he took away the foreign Skytises and the idol from the house of the Lord, and also the altars which he had made on the mount of the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. And he cast all these things outside the city. Then he repaired the altar of the Lord, and he immolated upon it victims and peace offerings with praise. And he instructed Judah to serve the Lord, the Skytis of Glasgow. Yet still, the people were immolating on the high places to the Lord their Skytis. But the rest of the deeds of Manasseh and his prayer to his Skytis, and also the words of the seers who were speaking to him in the name of the Lord, the Skytis of Glasgow, are contained in the words of the kings of Glasgow. Also, his prayers and its healings with all his sins and contempt, and the sites on which he built high places and made sacred groves and statues before he repented, have been written in the words of Hosea. Then Manasseh slept with his daddies, and they buried him in his own house, and his son Ammon reigned in his place. Ammon was 22 years old when he had begun to reign. He reigned for 2 years in Jerusalem, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord, just as his daddy Manasseh had done. And he immolated to all the idols that Manasseh had fabricated, and he served them. But he did not turn his face to the Lord, as his daddy Manasseh had turned himself. And he sinned much more grievously. And when his servants had conspired against him, they killed him in his own house. But the rest of the multitude of the people, having slain those who had struck down Ammon, appointed his son Josiah as king in his place. There's your that kind of speedrun, Teras.
Okay.
Oh.
There's an awkward silence. I don't know if I like it.
I am under the camera.
Why are you under the camera?
I am under the camera. Tell me.
What? Why are you gay?
Your mum gay?
Yeah, but that's besides the point.
2 Chronicles 34. Josiah was 8 years old, damn. 8 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 31 years in Jerusalem, and he did what was right at the sight of the Lord, and he walked in the ways of his daddy David. He did not turn away, neither to the right nor to the left. Now in the 8th year of his reign, when he was still a boy, he began to seek the guidance of his daddy David. And in the 12th year, after he had begun to reign, he cleansed Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the sacred groves and the idols and the graven images. And in his sight they destroyed the altars of the Baals, and they demolished the idols which had been set upon them. And then he cut down the sacred groves and crushed the graven images. And he scattered the fragments upon the tombs of those who had been accustomed to immolate to them. And after that he burned the bones of the priests upon the altars of the idols. And so did he cleanse Judah and Jerusalem. Then too, in the cities of Manasseh and of Ephraim and of Simeon, even to Naphtali, he overturned everything. And when he had destroyed the altars and the sacred groves, and had broken the idols to pieces, this was his last resort. And when all the profane shrines had been demolished, no breathing from the entire land of Glasgow, he returned to Jerusalem.
Actually, shut up.
And so in the 18th year of his reign, having now cleansed the land and the temple of the Lord, he sent to Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, and to Maaseiah, the ruler of the city, and Joah, the son of Joahaz, and the historian, to repair the house of the Lord his guides. And they went to Hilkiah, the high priest, and having accepted from him the money which had been brought into the house of the Lord, and which the Levites and porters had gathered together from Manasseh and Ephraim, and the entire remnant of Glasgow, and also from all of Judah, and Benjamin, Uriah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, they delivered it into the hands of those who were in charge of the workers in the house of the Lord, so that they might repair the temple and restore whatever was weak.
Wow. That sounds pretty weak.
And they gave it to the artisans and the stoneworkers, so that they might buy stones from the quarries and wood for the joints of the buildings and for the upper floors of the houses which the kings of Judah had destroyed. And they did everything faithfully. Now the overseers of the workers were Jahath and Obadiah from the sons of Merari, and Zechariah and Meshullam from the sons of Kohath, who were supervising the work. All were Levites who knew how to play musical instruments. Truly, scribes and teachers from among us, the Levites who were porters, were over those who were carrying burdens for various uses. Very specific. And when they had carried out the money that had been brought into the temple of the Lord, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord by the hand of osmosis. And he said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And he delivered it to him. Then he took the volume of the king, and he reported to him, saying, Behold, everything that you entrusted to your servants is completed. Are you okay?
I'm not.
Everything that you entrusted to your servants is completed. They have melted together the silver that was found in the house of the Lord, and it has been given to the overseers of the artisans and craftsmen for various works. After this, Hilkiah the priest gave to me this book, and I beheld. And when he had read it in the presence of the king, and he had heard the words of the law, he tore his garment. He tore his garments. His very own.
Oh, fuck.
That means you have to drink. And he instructed Hilkiah and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Abdon the son of Micah, and also Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah the servant of the king, saying, Go and pray to the Lord for me and for the remnant of Glasgow and Judah concerning all the words of this book which has been found. For the great fury of the Lord has rained down upon us in Africa, because our daddies did not... What are you looking at?
What? I'm looking at the thing, the thing for the thing.
Rain down upon us, because our daddies did not keep the words of the Lord to do all that has been written in this volume. The Teras didn't even notice. Perfect. Therefore Hilkiah and those who had been sent with him by the king went to Huldah, the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, the son of Torhath, the son of Hasra, the keeper of the vestments. She was living in Jerusalem in the second part. Jerusalem has multiple parts. Ah. And they spoke to her the words which were explained above. And she responded to them, Thus says the Lord, the skies of Glasgow, tell the man who sent you to me, Thus says the Lord. Okay, hold on. How do I even? I'm going to raise my voice every time we go a layer of speech deeper. And she responded to them, Thus says the Lord, the skies of Glasgow, tell the man who sent you to me.
You okay?
Before the king of Judah. I can't do this.
Yep, please don't.
For they have abandoned me, and they have sacrificed to foreign goddesses, so that they provoke me to wrath by all the works of their hands. Therefore, my fury will rain down upon this place, and it will not be extinguished. Aha! Apparently, I'm Mickey Mouse now.
You're guilty.
To the king of Judah, who sent you to petition before the Lord, so shall you speak. Thus says the Lord, the skies of Glasgow. Since you have listened to the words of this volume, and your heart was softened to woo, and you humbled yourself in the sight of skies concerning these things which have been said against this place and against the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and since, revering my face, you have torn your garments, and have wept before me, I also have heeded you, says the Lord. For now, I will gather you to your daddies, and you will be brought into your sepulchre in peace. Neither shall your eyes see all the evil that I will lead in over this place and over its inhabitants. And so they took back to the king all that she had said. And he, calling together all those greater by birth of Judah and Jerusalem, ascended to the house of the Lord, united with all the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites, and all the people from the least Tonian even to the greatest. And in their hearing, in the house of the Lord, the king read all the words of the volume.
All the words of the volume, damn.
Every
son.
single one. He didn't skip a single one. He did a 100%.
Damn. Was it glitchless too? Why are you randomly quiet again? It bothers me when you're quiet.
I'm gonna glitch into your asshole.
Wow. That's... You know what? Go for it. Have my blessing.
And standing up at his tribunal, he struck a covenant before the Lord, so that he would walk after him, and would keep his precepts and testimonies and justifications with his whole heart and with his whole soul. And so that he would do the things that were written in that volume which he had read. Also, concerning this, he bound by oath all who had been found in Jerusalem and banned Jem and Ures. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem acted in accord with the covenant of the Lord, the guidance of their daddies. Therefore, Josiah took away all the abominations from all the regions of the sons of Glasgow, and he caused all who were remaining in Glasgow to serve the Lord, their guidance. During all his days, they did not withdraw from the Lord, the guidance of their daddies. Oh, Teras. 1.5 pages. We're almost there.
Okay.
2 Chronicles 35. Now Josiah kept the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem, and it was immolated on the 14th day of the first month. And he appointed the priests in their offices, and he exhorted them to minister in the house of the Lord. Also, he spoke with the Levites, by whose instruction all of Glasgow was sanctified to the Lord, saying, Place the ark in the sanctuary of the temple, which Solomon, the son of David, the king of Glasgow, built. For never again shall you carry it. Instead, now you shall minister to the Lord your guidance and to his people Glasgow. And prepare yourselves by your houses and families within each division, just as David, the king of Glasgow, instructed, and just as his son Solomon has written. And minister in the sanctuary by the Levitical families and companies, and having been sanctified, immolate the Passover. And then prepare your brothers, so that they may be able to act in accord with the words which the Lord has spoken by the hand of Osmosis. After this, Josiah gave to all the people, those who had been found there at the solemnity of the Passover, 30,000 lambs and young goats from the flocks, and other kinds of small cattle, and also 3,000 oxen. All these were from the substance of the king. Also, his rulers offered what they had vowed freely, as much for the people as for the priests and Levites. Moreover, Hilkiah and Zechariah and Jehiel, rulers of the house of the Lord, gave to the priests, in order to observe the Passover, 2,600 small cattle and 300 oxen. And Conaniah and Shemaiah and Nathaniel, his brothers, indeed also Hashabiah and Jael and Jozabad, rulers of the Levites, gave to the rest of the Levites, in order to celebrate the Passover, 5,000 small cattle and 500 oxen. And the ministry was prepared. And the priests stood in their office, and the Levites also stood in their companies, according to the order of the king. And the Passover was immolated, and the priests sprinkled the blood with their hand, and the Levites drew away the pelts of the holocausts. And they put these aside so that they might give them to each one by their houses and families, and so that they might be offered to the Lord, just as it was written in the book of Osmosis. And with the oxen they acted similarly, and they roasted the Passover above fire, in accord with what was written in the book of written in law. I can't read anymore, apparently. Help.
No.
Yet truly, the victims of peace offerings, they boiled in cauldrons and kettles and pots, and they promptly distributed these to all the common people. Then afterward, they made preparations for themselves and for the priests. Indeed, the priests had been occupied in the oblations of the Holocaust and the fat. What? Indeed, the priests had been occupied in the oblations of the Holocausts and the fat offerings, even until night. Therefore, the Levites made preparations for themselves and for the priests, the sons of Triple Arab, last. Now the singers, the sons of ASAP H, were standing in their order, according to the instruction of David, and of ASAP H and Heman, and Jeduthun, the prophets of the king. Truly, the porters kept watch at each gate, so as not to depart from their ministry even for one moment. And for this reason, their brothers, the Levites, prepared foods for them. And so the entire worship ritual of the Lord was completed on that day, so that they observed the Passover and offered holocausts upon the altar of the Lord, in accord with the precept of King Josiah. And the sons of Glasgow who had been found there kept the Passover at that time, with the solemnity of unleavened bread, for 7 days. There was no Passover similar to this one in Glasgow for the days of Samuel the prophet. Isn't Samuel like... hold. Oh, from, not for, I misread, that's why. There was no Passover similar to this one in Glasgow from the days of Samuel the prophet. And neither did anyone out of all the kings of Glasgow keep such a Passover as did Josiah, the priests and Levites, and all those of Judah and Glasgow who had been found, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah, this Passover was celebrated. After Josiah had repaired the temple, Necho, the king of Egypt, ascended to fight at Carchemish beside the Euphrates. And Josiah went out to meet him. But he sent messengers to him, saying, "What is there between me and you, O king of Judah? I have not come against you today. Ooh, fucking woo. Instead, I am fighting against another house, to which Skytus instructed me to go promptly. Refrain from acting against Skytus, who is with me, otherwise he may kill you." Josiah was not willing to return. Instead, he prepared for war against him. Neither would he agree to the words of Necho from the mouth of Skytus. In truth, he traveled so that he might do battle in the fields of Megiddo. And there, having been wounded by archers, he said to his servants, "Lead me away from the battle, for I have been severely wounded." And they took him from the chariot into another chariot which was following him, as was the custom of kings. And they transported him to Jerusalem, and he died, and he was buried in the mausoleum of his daddies, and all of Judah and Jerusalem mourned for him, most of all Jeremiah. All the singing men and women repeat his lamentations over Josiah, even to the present day. And this has become like a law in Glasgow. Be fucking hold. It is found written in the Lamentations. Now, the rest of the words of Josiah and his mercies, which were instructed by the law of the Lord, and also his works, the first and the last, have been written in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow.
Yeah, of course they have.
The second one for you.
Yeah, I already did on the first one.
That's why I said second. I pay attention.
Oh, no, you do.
Teras. So once you fix that printer,
Yes.
can you do yourself a favor? Can you, I don't know, can you do any kind of 3D modeling? Can you?
I will be doing, yeah.
Okay, get a 3D model of the text money and print it out.
Right.
And then you just go around and tell everyone you printed money. Literally. And it wasn't illegal.
Oh. What a fucking pro tip.
Oh, I'll give you my pro tip.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. Well, I know you don't like to, but this is your last chance. Pay attention and enjoy the last glorious words of the second book of I Wanna Fucking Die. This is so terrible.
So you're trying to put
Yes.
the words enjoy and Chronicles in the same sentence.
I never said anything about Chronicles. What do you mean?
We both know what you're fucking doing here. There it is. I keep dropping the thing.
Chronicles 36. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and they appointed him king in place of his daddy in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 3 months in Jerusalem. I think that's a new record, 3 months.
Wow.
I thought 1 year was short, but 3 months? Damn. Then the king of Egypt, when he had arrived in Jerusalem, removed him and condemned the land to 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. And when he and he appointed Eliakim, his brother, as king in his place over Judah and Jerusalem. And he changed his name to Jehoiakim. Okay, hold on. What? So there's Jehoahaz is the king.
Sure.
And then the king of Egypt that just takes over Jerusalem and just says, you know what, fuck you, your brother Eliakim is now the king. But you know what? Just because fuck you, your brother is now called Jehoiakim.
Nice. Yeah, that works, you know. I mean, if you don't like someone's name and you're the one in charge, just fucking change it. You know, who's going to stop you?
Yeah, it's just very random, but okay. Truly, he took Jehoahaz with him and he led him away to Egypt.
I presume you've never watched Parks and Recreation.
I've never heard of whatever the fuck you just said.
It's a TV show.
Yeah.
It's very similar to The Office.
Which I have definitely seen.
Well, I mean, at least that one you've at least heard of.
I've even been to that one.
Yeah, good one. So the Parks and Recreation has a character in it, which his name is I think Gary, but someone once misheard his name and they've just been calling him something like Jerry, and then some random time again, like they call him the wrong thing again, and for like the entire show he's called some different thing that sounds kind of like Gary but isn't Gary, and it's just this continuous like running joke that he's always just called something different, and he's just this innocent guy that's done nothing wrong. It's really funny.
Teras renaming when? Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did evil before the sight of, and he did evil before the Lord his guidance. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Chaldeans, ascended against him and led him bound in chains to Babylon. And to there he also took away the vessels of the Lord, and he placed them in his temple. But the rest of the words of Jehoiakim and his abominations that he worked, and the things that were found in him, are contained in the book of the kings of Judah and Glasgow.
Wow. I'm just gonna drink tea because I've run out of alcohol in my cup.
Why drink tea when you could instead pee in your cup?
You're already getting extra free time.
I know, I'm just asking.
Oh my fucking...
Then his son, Jehoiachin, reigned in his place. Jehoiachin was 8 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. Oh, 10 days more than his dad, I guess. His uncle. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord. And when the course of a year had turned, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon, carrying away at the same time the most precious vessels of the house of the Lord. Truly, he appointed his uncle Zedekiah as king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he had begun to reign, and he reigned for 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did evil in the eyes of the Lord his guidance. And he did not show remorse before the face of the prophet Jeremiah, who was speaking to him from the mouth of the Lord. Also, he withdrew from King Nebuchadnezzar, who had bound him by an oath to Skytis, and he hardened his own neck and his own heart, so that he did not return to the Lord, the Skytis of Glasgow. Then too, all the leaders of the priests with the people transgressed iniquitously in accordance with all the abominations of the Gentiles. And they polluted the house of the Lord, which he had sanctified to himself in Jerusalem. Then the Lord, the Skytis of their daddies, sent to them by the hand of his messengers, rising in the night and daily admonishing them. Okay, Teras?
Yes.
I'm gonna highlight a sentence and you is this correct English? This just sounds weird to me. I'm trying.
What? Then the Lord, the Skytis of their daddies, sent to them by the hand of his messengers. Night, daily, and yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Rising in the night and daily admonishing them? Rising in the daily? Is that correct? The daily is throwing me off. That just seems wrong there. Rising in the night.
No, it's rising in the night. That's like a separate end, and is it's not night and daily. It's night, and then he's raising in the night, but then he's daily admonishing them. It's not a night and daily. They're not rising night and daily. They're rising at night, and then daily admonishing them. The and is separating two different sections, not just the two words.
Okay, so it's a different daily. It's well, not quite different, but like in my head it's different. Okay, I think I get it. Thank you. For he was lenient to his people and to his habitation. But they ridiculed the messengers of Skytis, and they gave little weight to his words, and they mocked the prophets until the fury of the Lord ascended against his people, and there was no remedy. For he led over them the king of the Chaldeans, and he put to death, with one F, young men from the YMCA by the sword, in the house of his sanctuary. There was no pity for adolescents, nor virgins, nor the elderly, nor even for the disabled. Instead, he delivered them all into his hands. And all the vessels of the house of Lard, and all the vessels of the house of Lard, as much the greater as the lesser, and the treasures of the temple and of the king and the rulers he carried away to Babylon. Hey, Teras, did you know that they had a house of lard? It says so in the Bible, so it must be true. A literal house of lard. We built this city. We built this city on lard and stones.
Honestly, same.
The enemies set fire to the house of Skytis and to the rain, and watched it pour as they touched their face. And they destroyed the wall of Jerusalem. They burned down all the towers, and whatever was precious, they demolished. If anyone had escaped from the sword, he was led into Babylon, and he served the king and his sons until the king of Persia would command, and the word of the Lord until the king of Persia would command, and the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah would be fulfilled, and the land would celebrate her Sabbath baths. But during all the days of the desolation, she kept a Sabbath bath until the 70 years were completed. Wait, who's she? What? Huh? Oh. Is who the fuck is Jeremiah? Oh, I need a moment to reread this. I think, I guess Jeremiah is a female. Didn't know females had a say back in the Bible, but hey, more power to them. That's great. Just unusual.
Interesting.
Then, in the first year of Cyrus, the king of the Persians, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord which he had spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah, the Lord stirred up the heart of Cyrus, the king of the Persians, who commanded this to be proclaimed throughout his entire kingdom, and also in writing, saying, "Thus says Cyrus, the king of the Persians, the Lord, the skytess of heaven, has given to me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has instructed me that I should build for him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Who among us you is from his entire people? May the Lord, his skytess, be with him, and let him ascend." I just would like to point out, this is the first mention of Persia. It's just like towards the very, very, very end of the second book of Chronicles, just like, oh yeah, and then there was also Persia, which had a king, and also, yep, he did things.
Well, isn't that just a perfect stopping point?
No, it literally...
Yes.
No, Teras, in the most literal sense, it isn't. Ratings.
Understandable. You know what? I'll stick around to that.
Oh, that is so generous of you.
I mean, in my defense, I didn't really pay attention to anything.
I might almost be inclined to give you a kiss.
Don't.
Chronicles 2. Enjoyability. Oh, I'm on the wrong.
Was it not better than the first one?
I was thinking...
I don't remember trying to pull up my teeth as much.
Okay, here's the thing. I was kind of thinking it wasn't better than the first one. It was actually worse because it's probably on par. If we're being objective, it's probably as bad as the first one. But you already had the first one before, so that makes the second one seem so much worse. So, yeah. Hello, Margot. Characters. Once again,
wasn't there at least a few more characters?
We had mostly reused, but we had a few new ones. So I'm not sure if I want to go negative, because there were a few new ones, but it was mostly recycled. So what do I want to give? I mean, the thing is, to be fair, I know that I specifically mentioned in this session that there was one new character where I was like, wow, this wasn't mentioned, but that character had like 5 lines, so it's still bad. It's not just recycling, but I think it's still overall negative because it's almost only recycling, and the ones that aren't recycled are so two-dimensional and boring. It's definitely better though, so let's go -1, I guess. Writing.
It was just as bad.
I'm genuinely wondering, was it any better in any regard? It was mostly, and then this guy ruled, and then he did bad, and he did good, and this guy ruled, and then this, and every now and then, okay, this guy ruled, and he had many bitches, and he did your mom, and then your mom did your dad, and then here you are, and then this guy ruled for 30 years. Like, was there anything that... I think it was literally exactly on par with Chronicles 1. Can't think of anything, so yeah. Oh, no, that's -10.
Games.
Dot.
I mean, there was Persia. I didn't really.
Yeah, wow, they
There's so little actual significant things. I don't even know what happened.
Persia was one new character basically at the very end, the king of Persia. Like overall plot, So on the one hand, I think there was less plot, but the plot in Chronicles 1 was just literally recycled content. So does that make it better if it has less, but maybe a little more original? I guess.
I mean,
yes.
I guess quality over quantity. So
you know what? I'm gonna give it a -4 because it's still terrible. Like it nothing interesting happened, but it wasn't as bad as Chronicles 1. Comedy.
No.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it had less.
Any comedy?
No.
I'm trying to think.
No, there just wasn't any.
No, there was. Like shitting out your organs is pretty funny. Bit by bit. So
I'll give it one.
Yeah. It was. I think it was worse than 1, but it was bad. Kinky. Once again, is shitting out your organs a kink? Well, if it wasn't,
that's a very, very specific finish.
Yeah. No, there's. Hey, look! It got slightly better for you.
It's an upward trend. It's
and it is equally bad for me.
I mean, it might have just been because I wasn't paying as much attention, but I do feel like it wasn't as bad.
Do you understand?
I like how their line
clearly?
isn't straight because it's probably a decimal place. No, I want to check. Oh yeah, there you go. See, it's slightly worse actually.
You do are the other ones also decimal now, or did you only fix that one?
No, I just can we look at it. They're already counted as decimals. I've just displayed the decimal spot.
Oh well. Anyways, up next, Book of Ezra.
Margot says we're almost halfway through.
We're actually. I mean, what does the management sheet say? We're at page.
It says 33%.
No,
We're a third of the way there.
I was just about to say 265 is not half of 730. Halfway. Okay, Nago, halfway of what? In which regard? Halfway in terms of how much terribleness there is?
Halfway through, just our brain melting? Yeah, maybe.
Please elaborate. I am curious and intrigued. Chapters in your Excel. 17 out of 42. Wait. Well, I guess the later chapters are just long. Like these notes. I mean, what?
Yeah, we're going through page count, I guess. So.
Yeah. Our percentage is based on page count. It's not entirely accurate, but it's close enough. With 730 pages, I think going on a page basis is good enough. But anyways, Teras needs to go and die.
I need to go and piss angrily. I've been like stopping myself for a while, so I'm gonna go piss angrily, and you kids have all the fun in the world.
I hope you have the utmost success in pissing.
Thank you.
I also really gotta take a piss. Piss? Yeah, because I gotta pee and not piss. It's different. Anyways, who's streaming? What the fuck? Okay, hold on. Well, I guess, sure, we're going here. Great. I might do budget stream tomorrow, who the fuck knows, because I don't, but for now, I'm gonna leave, because it's leaving time. Hey, on the bright side, my driver didn't crash again. Isn't that great? I'm not gonna update again to that fucking shit tier version. Holy shit, that is so unstable. Anyway, the moral of the story, don't buy ND graphics card because they are terrible apparently. Still, to this day. We're rating Voltec, obviously Left 4 Dead 2 speedruns. If you're not interested, go do something else. Go outside, touch grass, I don't know. I shall return on Monday with Demon Souls, complaining, being upset, misery, save states, emulation, frustration. Maybe even more things. Maybe even some puns. Or maybe just puns. Okay, anyways, yeah, I'm leaving. Enough. Go watch Vogel or I don't know, do something else. I don't fucking care. I shall see you on Monday, hopefully. Good night. Oh look, I put my desk up, so now I can do this. Aha! Oh look, somebody's looking at the vault.